Boy, okay, this video is not going to be fun because we're talking about inverse trig. Now, we already talked about in an earlier video about normal trig, sine, cosine, tangent, secant, cosecant, and cotangent, but now let's talk about the inverse of all those. Arcsine, arccosine, arctangent, arccotangent, arcsecant, and arcsecant. Did I say arcsecant twice? I don't know. Either way, arcsecant and arccosecant. Um, so, how do I do this? Which is the one I'm going to... I'm sorry, excuse me 1 second. I completely just lost my thing. Oh, okay, sorry, there I go, found it. Okay, so you're going to find this of the inverse sine function. How would you do that? Well, let's take back a second and think about what exactly the definition of inverse trig is. So if we know that y, in this case, equals sine inverse of x, like that, then that means that you can draw out a picture. Remember how we used to do this back in pre-calc? Draw out a picture, and we'd be able to say if the y, which would in this case be the angle, or I guess theta, this right here, because sine opposite hypotenuse, so katoa, x and 1 would be right there, and then this line right here would be 1 minus x squared. So if you wanted to find what the derivative of this is, you could think of this also as if y equals the inverse sine of x, that means that x equals sine of y. Kind of flipping this on the other side, which is actually where I got this picture from. And for this reason, you can think, well, if dy dx is the derivative of this in terms of x, you're going to end up getting 1 over cosine y, which is the same thing as secant y. And in this case, secant would be hypotenuse over adjacent. So you end up with 1 over square root of 1 minus x squared. Okay, you didn't know how to do like that. Basically, that was just my proof, but I'm just going to go ahead and save you the trouble and just tell you all 6 of them, and you're basically going to have to memorize them. Now, 4 of them you're definitely going to have to memorize. 2 of them you probably aren't going to need to specifically know, because the AP test usually doesn't test on those, but basically, these are just super not fun. You're going to have to probably just memorize these right before the AP test. Yeah. Okay. So, I'm going to do these in a different color so you can see them a little bit better. As we just proved, the derivative of inverse sine is 1 over square root of 1 minus x squared. Now, cosine is actually just this that we just proved negative. So it's going to be negative 1 over square root of 1 minus x squared. I hope you can see the red. I think you can. Okay. Cosine, or sorry, not cosine, wait a minute. Oh, God, I wrote this wrong. Sorry. I'm very, very, very sorry about this. I probably should redo this video, but I'm not going to. Would be negative 1 over square root of 1 minus x squared. It's just the negative version of sine. Now, tangent is actually a simpler one, ironically, and that is just 1 over 1 plus x squared. The other one for this one, I like to think the other one, I don't want to say the opposite, because the opposite, well, I guess it would be the opposite. The opposite of tangent is cotangent, and that would also just be negative 1 over 1 plus x squared. Now, these last two you probably aren't going to need to know, but I'm just going to write them down anyway. Cosecant is, actually I'll start with secant, is 1 over the absolute value of x times, I believe it's x squared minus 1, yes. And then cosecant would be the negative of that. So it would be negative 1 over the absolute value of x times x squared minus 1. So the ones you really need to know is this one, this one, this one, and this one. Basically, if you memorize sine and tangent and just know that cosine and cotangent are just the negative of those, then that's pretty easy to remember. And yeah, that's about it.